ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतापदकमलम् श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितां तां सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरतीश्वे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Mataji, I'll start with Gita Mahatmya.
Yes, better.
Okay, Mataji. गीतशास्त्रमिदं पुण्यं यः पठेत् प्रयतः पुमान् विष्णुपदम् अवाप्नोति भयशोकादिवर्जिता गीतध्यानशीलस्य प्राणायामपरस्य च नैव शान्तिः पापानि पूर्वजन्मा कृतानि च मलिनेमोचनं पुंसा जलस्नानं दिने दिने सकृद् गीतामृतस्नानं संसारमलनाशनं गीतसुगीतकर्तव्यं किं मन्ये शास्त्रे या स्वयं पद्मनाभस्य मुखं पद्माद्विनिश्रिता भारतामृत सर्वस्वं विष्णुवक्त्रविनिश्रितं गीतगङ्गोदकं पीत्वा पुनर्जन्मा न विद्यते सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दना पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धगीतामृतं महत् एकं शास्त्रं देवकी पुत्रगीतम् एको देवो देवकी पुत्र एव एकमन्त्रस्तस्य नामानि यानि कर्मापि एकं तस्य देवस्य सेवा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Mataji, I'll start. Hare Krishna to everyone. So today I'll be doing the chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, contents of the Gita summarized. So before I start, I would like to take the blessings of Sachi Mataji and Ramakrishna Prabhuji and all my teachers, my Bhakti Shastri teachers who have imparted this knowledge unto me, and my parents also who have helped me, and my friends who have also supported me in doing this today. Hare Krishna, and please do forgive me if I make any mistake. It's a pretty long chapter, so you will have to bear with me for a while because there's a lot of theoretical points. Very like we're going to be analyzing what is soul and body, so it's going to be very theoretical. Please Please forgive me if I bore you or if I make any mistakes. And if I miss out any points or if I did any mistake, please to correct me and add on. And thank you, Hare Krishna. So I will share my screen now. Is my audio audible? Is it? Oh, it's lagging.
Your audio is audible, but the thing is, there is some break in between. I think on and off, on and off. But now it is okay. Just continue. Let us see if there is some an issue. But on off, we are able to feel that you're getting frozen and
There's any issue, much just let me know. I will do.
yeah. Now again, you're frozen. You were frozen for a second.
No, Maji, I was not saying anything.
Okay, okay. Okay.
Uh, no, just sharing. Just let me know if you're able to see the screen.
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah. Hare Krishna to everyone. So, as I said, I'll be taking the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, contents of the Gita summarized. So, first of all, when I say the title of the chapter itself, it's we understand that chapter 2 is the complete overview of the entire Bhagavad Gita. So here the Lord gives us a complete overview of the whatever instruction He is giving us in the entire Bhagavad Gita. And here, as we saw in the last chapter, Arjuna comes. Arjuna tells us a lot of reasons why he doesn't want to fight, and he finally gives his fifth reason of why he doesn't want to fight, and he finally surrenders unto Krishna in this chapter. And this chapter, Krishna addresses all his reasons, and he convinces, he starts to convince Arjuna to fight. And yeah, so Arjuna approaches Krishna in complete humility and desperation. So, and then Krishna explains a practical application and concludes by explaining the symptoms of a person who is self realized. So we can understand this entire chapter with an acronym, and that is Gita, wherein G in Gita stands for Guru, and it is we can see that in verses 1 to 10, and I is for identity, that is our soul, our body, which is all addressed in verses 11 to 30, and T are two duties which are separated into two sections in this chapter, and we can see it from verses 31 to 53. And in the end, it is Atma Ram, A for Atma Rama, who is a self-realized soul, and how he we'll see how he is, how he sits, how he talks, how he walks. We'll be seeing all of that. So this is how this chapter is being broken down into. And in this is just a flow chart just for you to understand what we'll be doing. So in the first section, that is verses 1 to 10, we'll be seeing Arjuna's indecision. That is the fifth reason that Arjuna gives to Krishna, that why he doesn't want to fight. And then finally, he surrenders unto Krishna and accepts him as his guru. So that is the uh, first part. And then Krishna starts instructing Arjuna about the analysis of body and soul, which is Jnana Yoga or Sankhya Yoga. And he gives reasons why he shouldn't be lamenting, and he explains the characteristics of the soul and qualities of the soul, and what are the powers of the soul. And after that, the next part, like I said, there are two duties, and it is separated into two parts, which is Sakama Karma Yoga and Nishkama Karma Yoga. So we'll take it as two sections. And Sakama Karma Yoga is performing prescribed duties uh, like being attached to the fruitive results. Nishkama Karma Yoga is detached work without reactions. And then the last section of the chapter is about Sthita Prajna, the qualities of a liberated soul. So this is all what we'll be covering in this class today. So like yesterday, Tulsi Gopi had told us the reasons why Arjuna did not want to fight. One was compassion for friends and relatives, no enjoyment even in even in victory, fear of sinful reaction, destruction of family tradition, and now the fifth reason we'll be seeing in this chapter, which is indecision. And Krishna will address them in the following verses. Okay, so first we'll be entering the first section, which is Arjuna's crisis and surrender unto Krishna. So here Arjuna is like we saw, Arjuna is very overwhelmed. Since the last chapter we are seeing he's very desperate. He's overwhelmed by grief and he's confused if whether what he's supposed to do. So he finally acknowledges his helplessness and surrenders unto Krishna as a disciple. So we all know that Sanjaya is sitting with Dhritarashtra and he's narrating whatever is happening in the battlefield to Dhritarashtra. So Sanjay is telling to um, Sanjay is telling to Dhritarashtra that tam tata kripaya vishtam ashrupurna kulekshanam vishidantam idam vakyam uvacha madhusudanaha. So here Sanjay said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana Krishna spoke the following words. Sorry. So here, one thing is important to see why Krishna is addressed as Madhusudana, because we all know Krishna killed the demon Madhu. So here, Krishna is going to kill the demon of misunderstanding in Arjuna's mind, so that he will take up the right path and do his duty. So that is why Krishna is addressed as Madhusudana in this verse. And then the next two verses, Krishna, seeing the compassion in Arjuna, he is chastising Arjuna for feeling this compassion towards all his family members. So he says in Bhagavad Geeta 2.2, would anyone like to read? So yeah, yes, Tulsi Gopi, you can do.
श्रीभगवानुवाच कुतस्त्वाकश्मलम् इदं विषमे समुपस्थितम् अनार्यजुष्टमस्वर्ग्यम् अकीर्तिकरमर्जुन.
Yeah, translation also you can read.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets but to infamy.
Yeah. So here Krishna says, Anarya Justam Aswargyam. He says, it is not befitting a man who knows the value of life. The Aryan means a person who knows the value of life. And that's why Krishna says here, Anarya Justam. Um, for a person like Arjuna who knows the value of life, it is not befitting for him to feel um, such feelings towards his family, such compassion, grief, and hesitation towards doing his duty. So it is not befitting a person who knows all of this. So he's telling Anarya Justam, and he says that feeling like this does not lead you to higher planets, but it will lead you to infamy. Krishna will again talk about this particular verse in the coming verses. But for now, he's saying that this will not lead you to higher planets, but to infamy. And then he says in Bhagavad Gita 2.3, he says, Klaivyam masmagama parta naitatvai upapadyate shudram hridaya daurbalyam tektu utishta parantapa. He says, O son of Pritha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weaknesses of heart and arise, O chastiser of enemy. He says here, degrading potence is that the cowardice of Arjuna. He's like if he does not fight. It shows that he's running away from people might start thinking that he's running away from the battlefield. And he's telling this compassion, what you're feeling, is the so-called magnanimity or the non-violence that you're feeling in your heart is just petty weaknesses of heart. So he's telling to give up all of that and arise. And he calls Arjuna Parantapa because although he was overwhelmed by false grief, but due to family affection, he surrendered. He surrenders unto Krishna. So he would soon be enlightened and he will finally start fighting with his enemy. So that's why Krishna calls him the chastiser of enemy. So, yeah. Now we'll see an analogy for the shloka from first shloka, which is compassion for the dress of a drowning man is senseless. A man fallen in the ocean of nescience cannot be saved simply by rescuing his outward dress, the gross material body. So he's telling, um, this is where he gives a hint that we are not we are not the body, we are the soul. So compassion for the body of someone is senseless, but compassion for the soul is self-realization. So this is what in this analogy we can understand. Another analogy is that we should understand the absolute truth. So here the absolute truth is realized in three phases: by understanding by the knower of absolute truth, and all of them are identical. Such phases of the absolute truth are expressed as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. These three divine aspects can be explained by the example of sun, which also has three different aspects, namely sunshine, the sun's surface, and the sun planet itself. So the one who studies sunshine only is like a KG student who just knows some basic knowledge about life. And one who understands the sun's surface is further advanced. He knows a little more. He's further advanced. And one who can enter into the sun planet is the highest. So ordinary students who are um, satisfied by understanding the sunshine, it's like they only know the basic knowledge. And then someone who tries to understand a little more further will understand Paramatma. But like transcendentalists and bhaktas are people who have realized the feature of the absolute truth, and they are the most topmost. So they engage themselves in the study of the absolute truth. So here the sun planet is is the Lord Himself, the Bhagavan, the knowledge of Bhagavan. So that is what we are saying, that even though um, our soul is of three types, can be divided into three, but all of them, um, even though they are of the same quality, but they are of different level. So that is what we understand from this analogy. And now, this is where Arjuna brings out his fifth reason of not fighting. He says, does anyone want to read this one? Yeah, Radhita, read.
गुरून् अहत्वा हि महानुभावान् श्रेयो भोक्तुं वैश्यम् अपीह लोके हत्वार्थकामांस्तु गुरून् हैव भुञ्जीय भोगान् रुधिरप्रतिज्ञान्. Translation: It would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood.
Thank you. So here, Arjuna asks, how can he counteract those personalities who are worthy of his worship? So we see here Dronacharya and Bhishma Dev, who are his teachers, his great grandfather. All of them are such great personalities who are worthy of his worship. So he's confused. How can he attack them? How can he fight against them? And then he says in the next verse that um, that it is better to live by begging than living at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. So, because even if I win, then everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. So, I cannot enjoy what the victory that like I cannot even enjoy the victory. Then, what should I actually fight? And then he finally becomes indecisive. Is which is better, to be conquered or to conquer? So So he's confused that should I fight dutifully and risk unnecessary violences, or should I refrain and live by begging? And then he's telling victory is also defeat, because even if I did win, I can't live happily without my family after killing my family. So he's very bewildered here, and he says that his mind has completely dried up. So he finally surrenders unto Krishna in the next verse. And he says, Karpanyadoshopahata swapavah precchami tvam dharma sammudachetah yatshreya nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyaste aham sadimam tvam prapannam. Translation: Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure. I have lost all composure because of my silly weaknesses. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and the soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So in this way, Arjuna is showing his helplessness and finally surrendering unto Krishna. So he's telling, um, he's like telling, I cannot find no means to drive away this grief, and it is drying up my senses. And he's approaching Krishna. Then it's like a guru has to be approached in perplexities. So to solve perplexity, a guru will help you and guide you. So in this situation for Arjuna, he realized that all the so-called knowledge that he has, the wealth, material comforts, everything that he had is of no use now. It is not helping him in solving his problems. So therefore, he wants to stop his friendly talks with Krishna and accept him as his guru and ask Krishna to guide him. So this is what he's doing here, and yeah. Then finally, Krishna starts to speak from the next verses. So before I start here in Sankhya Yoga, this next section, Krishna accepted Arjuna as his disciple. But what are those qualities in Arjuna that makes him qualified to receive the spiritual knowledge? So from the first chapter, from yesterday, we have seen that Arjuna has four qualities as mentioned. So one is Sama and Dhama. Sama and Dhama are complete control over his mind and senses. We saw that in Bhagavad Geeta 1.32. And then Uparati is the next qualification that Arjuna has, which is indifference for enjoyment. And then Titiksha. Titiksha is tolerance to duality, which we see in this chapter, where when his teachers, that is Dronacharya and Bhishma Dev, all were siding with Kauravas, the enemy, the Kauravas for their material advancement. He did not feel anything. He didn't. He still accepted them as his guru. He didn't He was not mad at them or anything. That he still accepted them as guru. So this shows his tolerance towards dualities. So that is called titiksha. Then the next one is shraddha. Shraddha is the faith in instruction, faith in the faith that he has in the instruction of the Lord. So this is shown in Bhagavad Gita 2.7. Now, Krishna finally accepts him as his disciple and gives his first instructions. So, does anyone want to read this? Madhava, Anushka, anyone? Okay, yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Shri Bhagavan Ashocyan Anvashocasvam Pratnavadamscha Bhashase Gatasun Agatasumscha Nanushocanti Panditaha. Translation: The Supreme Personality of Godhead, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead.
Yes, Mataji. So here Krishna says that he's mourning for something that is not worthy of his grief. So for one who knows, for one who's lacking in this knowledge should not force himself to be learning. So if someone tells us that they have this PhD, that PhD, he has done this many education, but he doesn't have this basic knowledge, that then his education is a joke. So the basic knowledge that we are the soul, not the body, is the basic thing. So if you don't know that, then all the knowledge that you have is just a joke. So um, according to this thing, I would like to say a story. So there was an old farmer which who sent his son for agricultural studies. So after the whole studies, the son was very proud of his education. So he was so puffed up by his modern education that he was mocking his father's old ways. So finally, when he came back home, he and his father have a conversation. So the son was like, Dad, with your technology, I will be surprised with this tree. If this tree could bear a mango fruit in the next 10 years. And the farmer was like, Son, even I would be surprised if the tree even bears a mango in his entire lifetime. And then son was like, he was confused and he was like, Why? And this farmer was like, Because it's a jamun tree, not a mango tree. So here the knowledge of the soul and body is the beginning of spiritual knowledge. So without which we'll be confused in all our activity. If we don't have this basic knowledge, whatever we know is just useless. There's no base to it. It's very baseless. So that is one moral that we can get from this story. So now Krishna starts saying about the soul. He says in Bhagavad Gita 2.13, he says, Dehino asmin yata dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhirastatra namuhyati. So translation, as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. And in the next verse, the Lord says, Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkadaha agma payino nityas tamstitikshasva bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception. O sign of Bharata, one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So here Krishna says in the 13th verse, he says, Dhira statrana muhyati. So here Dhira is a sober person who has a perfect knowledge of the constitution of individual soul, the super soul and the nature, both materially and spiritually. So, and then in the next sloka, Krishna says that the appearance of happiness and distress is like the appearance of winter and summer. They come and then they go. So, so one has to execute his duty despite climatic inconvenience. Similarly, Kshatriya has to fight dutifully even if it is with some friend or relative. So Krishna is telling Arjuna about this. So also here in the 14th shloka, Krishna addresses Arjuna in two ways. One as Kaunteya, one as Bharata. So this is to make Arjuna realize his family, the great heritage that his family, both from his both mothers and father's side. Kaunteya is the son of Kunti, and Bharata is the sign of Bharata. So this shows that this brings a big responsibility and a matter of proper discharge of duties. So therefore, he cannot avoid fighting. So in this way, Krishna is giving different reasons so that, to show that Arjuna, you have to fight. So next, in the next slokas, Krishna talks about the soul. So in this shloka, in these shlokas, we understand the presence of the soul. So the soul pervades the entire body and it is indestructible. That you cannot do anything to the soul. And how do we know the soul is there? It is by our consciousness. The consciousness is limited to one's own body. And then he speaks about the size of the soul. And the size of the soul is 10,000, the tip of the hair. And the soul is situated in the region of the heart and it cannot be asserted by any material. We'll see that in the coming verses also. Um, and then Krishna is saying, when someone is killed, the body is killed. The soul is eternal and hence cannot be slayed. So when someone thinks that he has killed someone or is being killed, that is not the real knowledge. But however, this doesn't mean that you can go kill anybody. But this is just to show that soul is never is eternal and it's the body that is being killed. So these are the points that are addressed in these three shlokas. But and then one analogy that we can give here for the 17th verse is that it clearly explains explains the presence of soul in our body. So just like the influence of active principle of medicine is spread out throughout the body, similarly, the influence of soul is spread throughout the body as consciousness, and that is the proof of existence of soul. So, um, so this verse like clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. So it's the it's it is the consciousness that shows us that the soul is there. So when you feel pain, when you feel happiness, that's when you understand that's your consciousness working there. So this consciousness is only in work when the soul is inside the body. So as soon as the soul leaves the body, the you cannot feel pain or happiness, or the consciousness is not there anymore. So thus this shows that soul is the soul is spread out throughout the body. Next is that this is now Krishna starts explaining about the souls, the characteristics of the souls from here onwards. So Krishna says that the soul neither takes birth nor it dies. It is unborn. It is eternal, ever existing, indestructible, and immutable. So nobody can kill it, nor it is not born, or it never dies. So there's no there's no question of destructing it or anything. It is indestructible. So symptom of soul is consciousness. Even if we can't find soul physically in the region of heart, we can understand and perceive the symptom, perceive it by the symptoms. That is consciousness. So an example would be like when it is morning and sometimes we don't really see the sun because it is covered by the clouds. But we know that the sun is still there. Why? Because the morning, we can see that the morning is bright and that is the light is spread over the whole place because of sun. So that's why we know the sun is there, but it is covered by clouds. Similarly, we know the soul is there, but we cannot really see it. We can understand it by the consciousness. And then the soul is eternal, and there are two kinds of soul: minute particle soul, that is anuatma, and the super soul, which is vibhuatma. And yeah, and one thing is okay, that is I'll tell it in the next slide. Next one is next shloka is an analogical sloka. You can Krishna says that as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So here Krishna compares changing of body to the changing of garments. So when it becomes old and useless, we change it to the next garment. I mean, next body. So individual soul is transferred from another body, from one body to another. And as you can see here, there's an analogy here of two birds on a tree. So the tree that is looking at the flowers is the soul, and the tree, the bird that is looking at the flowers is the soul, and the bird that is looking at the bird is the super soul. So here the super soul is the Paramatma, who is watching over us as a silent spectator, and just facilitating our material desires or whatever we are doing. He's just facilitating it. So Arjuna is being advised by Lord Krishna here not to lament for the changes of body, because Bhishma and Drona, since they will be cleansed by the reaction of all the activities of the present body, and they'll get a fresh new body. So they will, it's their soul is not going to die. They are going to get a new body in their next birth. And now the characteristics of the soul. So here we see that soul cannot be cut by weapon, soul cannot be moistened by water, it cannot be burned by fire, or it cannot be withered by wind, and no kinds of we cannot destruct it. It cannot be destroyed, and individual souls are eternally part and parcels of Supreme Soul, and it's not the individual soul that is cut from the Supreme Soul. So, one second, Mataji. Yeah. So, here, we are saying that the soul cannot be cut by weapons, cannot be burned by fire, cannot be moistened by water, withered by wind. It is unbreakable, cannot be burned, it cannot be dry, it is immovable. And so, in this way, we should not grieve for the body, because the soul is always eternal. And yeah, so like the analogy here is fire sparks, when separated from fire, can be easily extinguished. So individual souls, that is when we said that individual souls are part and parcels of the Supreme Soul. So when it comes in contact with the material world, it will get covered by the illusion, the Maya, illusory energy, and thus becomes separated from the association of the Supreme Lord. Like just like the sparks, when it is in the fire, it is hard to extinguish them. But as soon as it starts to spark, like this fire spark starts to separate from the fire, it is easy to like it is easy to extinguish them. So, and then another analogy is like a drop of water from the sea is of the same quality, but different in quantity. So it's the same as the spark of fire when compared to soul. So we are all part and parcels of the super soul, but we are different in qualities, because we are covered by the material energy. Then, and the next shloka, Krishna says that, O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being. So whoever it is, just the person's soul that is in the body. So he's never, that person is the soul, and he can never be slain. So therefore, you don't need to grieve for any living being. So yeah, and one analogy, two analogies what we can use here is, one is a surgical operation for Arjuna. Here is that Krishna says him to fight, and um, Arjuna is feeling compassion to both the sides, that he thinks that he's going to hurt every people from the other side and his side. So he's one analogy through which we can understand is that a surgical operation is meant to cure the person and not to kill the patient. Similarly, fighting on the order of Krishna is for the benefit of all. Thus, there is no possibility of sinful reaction. So when a surgeon is performing a surgery, he may be cutting or hurting the person, but it is all just to save the person. So he is doing his duty. So he does not incur any sins. So, and here Krishna is instructing Arjuna to fight. So there is no possibility of sinful reaction. Similarly, when you take the example of a judge in a court, a person who might have did something wrong, the judge is giving him the punishment of death. But it is his duty to punish this person according to his karma. So similarly, when Krishna orders fighting, it must be understood that it is for some supreme justice. And Arjuna is engaging in violence on the order of Krishna. So thus he will not incur any sinful reaction. And like this, Krishna explains the signs of the soul and convinces Arjuna to fight. Then he comes to the next part of the next section of the chapter, which is the duty and dharma, which is role of Kshatriya. Sakama karma, performing the prescribed duty. So we'll be seeing verses 131 to 38 here. So the first three slokas of this section tells about duty, destination, and sin. So the first sloka, that is Bhagavad Gita 2.31, Swadharmamapi cha veksha navikampitam dharmyadi yuddha shreyonyad kshatriyasya na vidyate. Translation: considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principle, and so there is no need for hesitation. And the second, in this sloka, Krishna says that your duty as a Kshatriya is to fight. So there is nothing, there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principle. So this is your duty, this is your Swadharma, and there is no need of hesitation to do this. And then he says about the destination after doing this. He says, O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of heavenly planets. So Krishna says over here that Kshatriya's duty is to fight. So even if one Kshatriya fights in a battle, in both ways he is benefited, even in victory or in loss. Because in victory, he will be able to enjoy worldly happiness, earthly happiness. But in loss, he is going to heavenly planets for doing his duty. So in both ways, it is only benefiting the Kshatriyas. So here, anyways, you're going to the high heavenly planets. Then in the next sloka, he says, if, however, you do not perform a religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties, and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. So he's telling, but Arjuna is telling that he's scared, he'll incur sin if he kill his family members, his relatives. But Krishna is saying, no, if you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties, and thus you will also lose your reputation as a fighter. So he's telling, if you don't fight, then you will incur sins. So this is how Krishna is trying to convince Arjuna. And then here is a flowchart through which we can easily understand this. So here, one second. Here, Kshatriya, he must be violent. He must be violent because his duty is to protect the society. So that is his discharge of duty. But if he does not perform his duty, he will incur sins for neglecting his duty. And he will also lose reputation as a fighter. When he loses reputation as a fighter, it brings him infamy. And for a respectable person like Arjuna, dishonor is worse than death. And then when he loses reputation as a fighter, great generals will consider Arjuna left battlefield out of fear, especially his enemies like Duryodhana and Karna and all. If they see him leaving the battlefield, they will not say, oh, he left the battlefield out of compassion or love for his family. They will for sure they will start telling that he left out of because he's a coward. He left it because he's scared to fight in the field. So and then they will consider him insignificant. Then enemies will describe him with unkind words and scorn his ability. So then Krishna is asking, what could be more painful? And then Krishna's final judgment is that in is that have if you fight, if you win, you'll go to you will have earthly kingdom, and if you win the battle, you will enjoy the earthly kingdom and the victory. But if you die in the battlefield, you will obtain the heavenly planet. So get up with determination and fight. And then Krishna is saying, fight for the sake of fighting. And Lord wants him to fight. And he's telling in the 38th sloka, he's telling, but fight for the sake of fighting, but without the consideration of loss, gain, happiness, distress, or victory or defeat. So this particular sloka 38 can be also considered as Nishkama Karma Yoga. So that we'll see in the next section. But yeah, I'll be explaining that. And now we will start Nishkama Karma Yoga. So, Arjuna wanted to, so till now what we did was Arjuna wanted to avoid war due to sinful reactions. So that is mentioned in 1.36 and 1.38. And Krishna already told him that that by avoiding one's duty, one will certainly incur sin. Now in this section, Krishna will explain how one can prevent all action by performing one's duty with detachment from results. Okay. 1 second. Okay. So now in this Nishkama, we know that Nishkama Karma is based on Jnana and Jnana or Bhakti. So in the last two sections, we learned about Jnana. Jnana about the knowledge about the soul and the body. In the next section, we learned about Karma Kanda, our doing our prescribed duties. Now, in this section, we will learn about Nishkama Karma Yoga, Nishkama Karma Buddhi Yoga, that is the yoga of intelligence. So now we'll be using both our knowledge and doing our prescribed duties. So performing duty in knowledge without attachment to results, that is Nishkama Karma Yoga. And then, like I said in the previous slide, Krishna mentions that you should do your work without considering happiness, distress, and all. So here, Nishkama Karma Yoga can be separated into two parts. One is that performing your duty in knowledge and material detachment, and without being attached to the results. This will advance you towards liberation. But at the same time, if you do your duty in material detachment and spiritual attachment, this will lead you to bhakti and advances towards pure love for Krishna. So this material detachment and spiritual attachment is whatever duty you're doing, whatever results you get from the duty you're doing, those results you are offering it to Krishna with love and devotion. That is called Nishkama Karma Yoga, but in bhakti. In the next verse, the Lord is speaking. Like in the next verse, Lord say that till now he had been speaking about the analytical study of body and soul, that is Sankhya or Jnana Yoga. Now he's going to talk about Buddhi Yoga. When you engage your intelligence in this yoga, you will become free from material bondages of work. Now here, from verses 40 to 41, Krishna is saying that there is no loss in this yoga. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, no destruction or decrease. Even a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. What is the most dangerous type of fear? It is getting an animal life in our next birth. So when you're acting for Krishna without expectation of sense gratification, because we have to act for Krishna without expectation of sense gratification, because when we do something in this life which is spiritual, it has a permanent effect, because unlike material things, it is very temporary. So if suppose like this in this birth, I have finished my school life, I have gained all my knowledge, everything. But in the next birth, when I go, I have to restart it from the starting. I have to start from KG1, KG2, grade 1, grade 2. But when I do Krishna Bhakti in this life, if I'm not able to complete it, it has a permanent effect. And in my next birth, I can start from the same point where I had left off. So in this way, I am saved from the most dangerous fear, that is to get an animal life in my next birth. So I might be born in a Brahmana family or an aristocratic family where I can practice my bhakti. Yeah. So what we understand here, another thing that we understand here is, when you have strong faith in Krishna consciousness, one will be elevated to highest platform. So the faith, we will have an unflinching trust in Krishna, that is faith. And when you're engaged in Krishna consciousness, you don't need to act in a material relationship. And all activities in Krishna consciousness is absolute. There is nothing good, there is nothing bad also. There is no duality. So this gradually leads you to the highest perfection in Krishna consciousness, which is renunciation of material conception of life. That is, you're completely renounced. Okay. And then we understand that practical knowledge of the soul beyond the conception of life, which is vyavasayatmika buddhi. And when you do devotional service to Krishna, it should be performed under spiritual master. So when a spiritual master is satisfied, Krishna is satisfied. And when Krishna is satisfied, everyone is satisfied. Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sadurlabhaha. So here you can understand this concept through an analogy, because when you're as watering the root of a tree, as by watering the root of a tree, one can automatically distribute water to the leaves and branches. So by acting in Krishna consciousness, one can render the highest service to everyone, namely self, family, society, country, humanity, everything. So like how I said, if Krishna is satisfied, everyone is satisfied. So when you're just engaging yourself in Krishna consciousness, you render service unto Krishna. So Krishna is satisfied by your um, bhakti. So when he is satisfied, everyone is becoming satisfied. So this is what we can understand from this analogy. And another thing, this is just one something I found interesting. So does anyone would anyone like to read this? Okay, Tulsi Gopi, yeah.
Hare Krishna. The best kind of intelligence I can have is intelligence used in the service of Krishna. That intelligence is defined as fixed when it is intent upon my spiritual master's instruction, such as chanting the names of Krishna, remembering his activities, and performing service to his lotus feet. His instructions are my sadhana and my life, both in the beginning stages of bhakti as well as in bhakti's perfectional stage. I desire only to follow his instructions. I accept nothing else as my life's work, even in dreams, whether I am happy or distressed, whether the material world remains or is destroyed. I do not care. There is no loss for me. I simply must carry out the orders of my spiritual master. Fixedness upon his orders is determined intelligence in devotional service, and only by being fixed in his orders, such determined intelligence is possible. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Tulsi Gopi. Yeah, so this was just something I found interesting, and I wanted to share with all of you. So we'll move on to the next part, where Krishna is telling about Oh, okay. So Bhagavad Gita 2.44, where Krishna says, Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam taya pahrata chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhavna vidhiyate. Translation: in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination of devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So, so here, what we can see is that for those who are very attached to the sense enjoyment, they are they are completely covered by the lust and greed. Their whole consciousness is stolen by lust and greed. So they do not have that one point intelligence to focus their senses unto the service of the Lord. So this um, this makes them. This is the reason that their devotional service towards the Supreme Lord does not take place. So when one is when one is covered by the lust and greed, he cannot control his senses, and thus he cannot perform devotional services unto the Supreme Lord. So this is what Krishna says, and in the next verse, Krishna says about Vedas dealing with the three modes, and that is Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nirdvando Nitya Sattvasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. So the subject of Vedas is mainly three modes. And he says, O Arjuna, become transcendental to these modes. Be free from all dualities in a pure spiritual state, freed from all anxieties for gain and safety, being established in self, in spiritual consciousness. And in this shloka, so Krishna talks about purposes of Vedas. So all purposes of purposes served by a small well are fulfilled by a great water body. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas, that is rituals or sacrifices and demigod worships mentioned in them, can be served to one who understands the purpose behind Vedas. Otherwise, it is not benefiting someone. If they do not have they do not know the real purpose of Vedas, it is not benefiting a person. And what is this purpose? Purpose is that it is to know and worship the one Supreme Lord, who is the knower and compiler of the Vedas. So here, in um, this flow chart, we can see that there are three modes of material nature. So that is Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna. Sattva-guna is the mode of goodness. Rajoguna is the mode of passion. Tamoguna is mode of ignorance. And this all these modes of material nature is based on the action and reaction. And what are these action and reaction based on? They are based on the material activities. So these material activities that we do is the sense gratification activities, the fruitive activities. And the Vedas, they deal with these fruitive activities. We have different Vedas for um, different activities. So what they actually intend to do is to gradually elevate us from the material platform to a transcendental platform. But for those who do not know this purpose, they are unable to elevate from the material platform to transcendental platform. But for those who know that it is Vedas are there to know and worship the one and only the one Supreme Lord Krishna. So yeah, so this is what we understand from this shloka. And now the next three verses, Krishna talks about how to practice Nishkama Karma Yoga. All this time we were telling what is Nishkama Karma Yoga. Now Krishna is telling how do you practice Nishkama Karma Yoga. So Krishna here, he says, Karmanevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhur mate sangasta akarmani. So translation, you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you're not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of results of your activities. Never be attached to not doing your duty. So here Krishna is saying never consider yourself the cause of the results of the activities. So here, like we said, Nishkama Karma Yoga is something that we do our prescribed duties without attachment to our to the results. So he's telling, never consider yourself the cause of the results, or never be attached to not doing your duty as well. So this is first step that Krishna says. And in the next step, Krishna says, perform your duties equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to your success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. He's telling to detach yourself from the success or failure. You have to do it. You have to do your duty equipoised. And then um, in the last shloka 49, he says, "O Dhananjaya, O Dhananjaya, keep all the abominable activities far distanced by devotional service. And in that consciousness, surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers." So he's telling to reject all abominable actions and surrender to this yoga. So those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are kripana, that is misers. Now, the last part of this section is, what are the benefits of acting in Buddhi Yoga? So Krishna gives four benefits of acting in Buddhi Yoga. First one being, there is no reaction. So one gets rid of both good and bad reaction when he's performing Buddhi Yoga. So therefore, engage in this yoga without attachment, which is the real skill or art of all the work. And then in the next one, he says that you will escape the birth-death cycle. One becomes free from the cycle of birth and death and attains the state or place beyond all miseries. Except for work in Krishna consciousness, all activities are abominable because they continually bind the worker to cycle of birth and death. So whatever you do, if you do it in Krishna consciousness, they are not considered abominable. Otherwise, this all those activities which you are doing will um, again bind you to the cycle of birth and death. Then Krishna says indifference to Veda. When your intelligence has crossed the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard about the fruits of Vedic rituals. So Krishna says, then you're not affected by your once your intelligence has crossed the delusions, you are neutral. You're not affected by what you hear or what is to be heard about the fruits of your actions or Vedic rituals. And then finally, he said you will have a fixed intelligence, which is achala buddhi and trans. So once you start acting in Buddhi Yoga, you will be no longer, your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery words of the Vedas. And your intelligence is fixed in self-realization, in the trance of self-realization. Then you will, when you're fixing your intelligence in self-realization, you will attain your divine consciousness. And then finally, you will attain the status of a Jivan Mukta, a person who is completely self-realized. So these are the benefits of acting in Buddhi Yoga. So this completes our um, this section. So now we'll be going to our last section where we'll be seeing who is a self-realized soul, what are his symptoms, how he sits, how he walks, how he speaks. All of these we'll be seeing here. So here, Sthita Prajna, the qualities of a liberated soul, Jivan Mukta. So Arjuna has questions Krishna about a Sthita Prajna. Who is Sthita Prajna? A self-realized soul, a Jivan Mukta, or one who is in Samadhi or divine consciousness. Excuse me. Sorry. So the first question that Arjuna asks is Ka Bhasha. What are his general symptoms? What are his general symptoms? So how does he reveal his position? So Krishna answers them in this question in 2.55, in which he says, the self-realized soul has renounced all tinges of sense gratification by finding pleasure in his self. So that is what Krishna says in the 55th shloka. With the mind withdrawn from the sense objects, he is satisfied by the soul, whose very nature is bliss. Atmana tushta. So that is the symptom of a stita prajna. And then how does he Arjuna then speaks kim prabhashate? How does he speak? On receiving praise or blame, affection or hate, what will he say externally or internally? So Krishna answers these questions, saying such a pure soul is neither mentally disturbed, elated, attached, fearful, or angry, and verbally he neither praises nor criticizes the good and evil he attains. So this is how he speaks. He's not affected by. He's not mentally disturbed, or he's not attached to anything. He's not angry. He's not overly happy. He's not fearful about anything, nor does he praise or criticize the good or the evil that he attains. Then, Kim Asita, how does he sit? How does he restrain his senses from the sense objects? So Arjuna asks him, how does he restrain his senses from the sense objects? So Krishna says in the 58th to 63rd verses, he says, such a person remains fixed in transcendental consciousness by virtue of his higher taste for service of Krishna. So one should develop that develop that taste for service of Krishna. Then only one can be fixed in transcendental consciousness. And when one can fix their mind into a transcendental consciousness, then he will be able to restrict one's senses from the sense objects by focusing them on Krishna. Otherwise, if he cannot focus one's sense into the service of Lord, then he will surely fall into materialistic illusions. Then in the next one, that is 61 to 67, Arjuna asks Krishna that Kim Rajeta, how does he walk? That is, how does he respond to the sense object? So it is basically how does he engage his senses. So Krishna says, free from attachment and aversion and satisfied in Krishna consciousness, he is fixed by his intelligence and achieves undisturbed peace by ignoring the desires of mind. Thus, internally renounced, he acts in connection with the Supreme. So what happens here is that he engages his senses are free from attachment and aversion. So whatever he does, like we already said, he fixes his mind in transcendental consciousness, and he develops a higher taste for service of God. So what of Lord? So whatever he does, he satisfies it in Krishna consciousness, and he fixes his intelligence. And when he fixes his intelligence and does service to the Lord, he attains an undisturbed peace by ignoring his desires of mind. And in this way, he is internally renouncing all his materialistic desires and connecting with the Supreme Lord by fixing his mind and intelligence into the transcendental consciousness. In this way, in the last shloka of this chapter, Krishna concludes, by living in this way, one can enter into the kingdom of God at the time of death. So this is what Krishna explains to Arjuna about his questions about a person who is liberated, who is very self-realized. And for this, we have some analogies for the slokas. So 2.58, which we have discussed here, how does he sit? So we understood that we saw that we should restrict one's senses from sense objects and only focus them on Krishna. So otherwise one will fall into material pool. Similarly, if you see a tortoise is can at any moment wind up his senses and wind up his senses and exhibit them again at any time for a particular purpose. So, like if he sees danger, the tur- the tortoise immediately brings his head back inside the shell to protect him from the dangers. So here the dangers are the materialistic desires or this material world itself. So and so for similarly in Krishna consciousness, a person who you similarly the senses of a Krishna conscious person are used only for some particular purpose in the service of the Lord and are withdrawn otherwise. So unless your senses are to be used in the service of the Lord, you are you do not engage yourself in any materialistic ways. So otherwise you have to withdraw yourself. And then another thing in the same shloka we can say is that we can take the analogy of a snake charmer and the snake. So the senses are compared to the venomous serpents, and the devotee to a snake charmer. A devotee should be strong like a snake charmer in controlling his serpent-like senses. He should not allow his senses to act independently. So, as you can see here, the snake charmer is controlling the snake, and that is how strong we should be. We should be able to control our senses from the sense objects and focus it on on Krishna consciousness. So this is one analogy, and another thing is that in the next verse we can again understand it through an analogy. The process of restriction of sense enjoyment by rules and regulation is something like restricting a deceased person from certain types of eatables. The patient, however, neither likes such restrictions nor loses his taste for the eatables. So here, in the 59th verse, Krishna says that though the embodied soul may practice to restrict his senses from their sense object, that the embodied soul still has taste for those sense objects. So, but one can seize from it by experiencing a higher taste, by engaging one's senses in Krishna consciousness, in the service of the Lord. So this is how you can um, get a higher taste and control your senses. We have two more analogies, and so this is for the verses 2.6, wherein Krishna 6:7, where Krishna says the even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses, it can carry away one's intelligence, just as a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water. So um, even like our mind is full of thoughts. So even if we focus our mind in um, one of the roaming senses, it can completely bewilder us and take away our intelligence. Just like in an ocean, when a strong wind when a strong wind is blown, it sweeps away the boat on water. So even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. And then um, 2.70, where Krishna says, Sthita Prajna is unagitated by desires. So, as the ocean is always being filled by rivers, but remains steady and not agitated, a person is fixed in Krishna consciousness, remains undisturbed even amidst the incessant flow of desires. So, here, like just like how we know rivers are flowing in a very rivers are always flowing and coming and joining into the ocean, but the ocean is always calm. But if you see rivers, they're all very like they're like rushing. So but the ocean is never agitated or disturbed by it. It is always calm. Similarly, a person fixed in Krishna consciousness should be undisturbed, even though there are flow of desires. So here, the flow of desires are the flow of rivers. But a person who is in Krishna consciousness is compared to the ocean, who is not agitated or disturbed by the flow of desires. So this is with this I conclude my session. But I would like to just recap everything what we have done so far. So in the first section, we saw that Arjuna is bewildered and he surrenders unto Krishna, and then he also gives his fifth reason to not fight. And Krishna finally accepts him as as his disciple and starts his instruction. And the first instruction was that we are not the body, we are the soul, and so there is no point in lamentation the for the family members in or being hesitant to fight. Then Krishna says about the two duties, wherein one is the prescribed duties and one is doing the duties without detachment. In the prescribed duties, he also convinces Arjuna that if he doesn't do his duty, he will incur sins, not by fighting with them, but by not choosing not to fight with the fight in the battle, by neglecting his duties. And he also says that all of this will lead only to higher planets and not infamy. And then Krishna starts speaking of Nishkama Karma Yoga, wherein it is about doing the prescribed duty in detached from the results, but in and also in service of the Lord. So that is Nishkama Karma Yoga. And finally, he talks about a person who's self-realized and a person who is self-realized and who knows a person who is self-realized and who knows what is um, who knows the higher taste of Krishna consciousness. So this is how Krishna tries to convince, and Krishna summarizes the entire Bhagavad Gita in this one um, chapter. Thank you and Hare Krishna. Any questions?
Very well. Thank you, Sreelakshmi. Thanks. Very wonderfully done. In fact, it was like you said, it was quite a long chapter consisting of 72 verses, but you went through it very nicely, taking us through the wonderful salient points of each of the entire chapter, and it was very nicely presented, wonderfully. Thanks a lot for the wonderful presentation. May Krishna bless you, dear. Krishna bless you. Haribol. Very nice.
Thank you so much, Mataji. I feel like I missed out a lot of points, and I feel like I only got confused when I was telling some of the parts of uh, uh, the the presentation, but I hope everyone is able to understand.
No, it was fine, absolutely.
I know it was a little long, very theoretical, and I don't.
Yes, it's absolutely fine because it was a long chapter and we're trying to do the 72 verses in such a short span of time. So it's quite imperative that you'll be only focusing on the main aspects and we cannot go through each and verse by verse. It was not. So it's good that you took section wise and you took us through the different aspects and the main themes of each section. And most importantly, you try to make us understand the analogies because with the way of analogies, it's very easy to understand the principles or the theoretical aspect of it. And that was very well presented. Thank you. Thank you once again. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Very nice. So anyone?
I don't have this today because I just finished the presentation today. so I didn't get time to make a quiz. So
No problem.
thank you
Maybe
so much.
tomorrow you can in the start, or you can send out the quiz as a Google form and let each of them do at the leisure. That is also fine. You can do a Google sheet, okay? And yes, that can be done.
Yes, Mataji,
Okay.
I'll do that.
Yes. Anybody for questions? Because there is a prata to ask questions. Anybody would like to ask? Yes, Urvashi Mata, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Please go ahead, Mata.
Hare Krishna. Sreelakshmi, you explained very nicely, and I'm very happy to hear. And I have some questions for myself. That you told that our senses are in material engagement. To from withdraw from material engagement, we should engage our senses in some higher taste. What is the meaning for higher taste? Where should I engage my senses? For example, if I like to watch TV too much, and I know that is not good for my spiritual advancement. Or some children, they are watching, they are playing video games. They know that this is not good, but still his mind is always in that video game. So how should we engage our mind in some higher taste? Means what, Sri Lakshmi? Please explain some practical examples.
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Mataji. I don't know if it's going to be right, but I'll tell what I think. Mataji, higher taste, according to me, what I feel is that to be engaged in Krishna consciousness, whatever work you do, if you can connect it with Krishna, that becomes your higher taste. So higher taste is basically to connect with Krishna. Whatever you connect with Krishna becomes a higher taste. So you said you like watching TV. So it doesn't necessarily need to be you can connect it with Krishna. You can maybe watch, you can listen to bhajans, you can listen to kirtans, or you can listen to lectures, or there's so many things that you can do even while watching movie that you can connect with Krishna. So in this way, you're engaging your senses to Krishna consciousness, which is making your taste a little higher. So when you are engaging yourself, whatever you do materially, if you can connect it to Krishna consciousness, that is what I consider higher taste, I think. But if there's something more to it, Satsumaji,
It's
can
really
you
very.
help me?
No, thank you, Sri Lakshmi. You gave my you solve my real situation. What I like to watch TV, but what should I do? You told me very nicely. Yes, I understood. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Anybody for any question? Okay, let me first introduce. Actually, Sreelakshmi is the dear daughter of His Grace Satyarupa Shamadas Prabhu and Her Grace Vimalini Keshri Devi Dasi Mata. So Sreelakshmi just finished her grade 12 and she's going to step into her graduation. And as you all know, she is a very wonderful Kirtaniya also, and also great dancer, a wonderful dancer also. In fact, she is going to help all the children in the coming Janmashtami program. She's going to do some choreography and also teach the children a dance for our Janmashtami programs. So in this way, like just now she said, higher taste. So I just wanted to elaborate. So she likes to dance, yeah, but she dances for Krishna. She likes to sing, but she sings for Krishna. So in this way, that is how she is engaging her senses, like she rightly said, engaging for the pleasure of Krishna. Because anything else, wherever, if it is not for Krishna, anything else, wherever you engage, it becomes for your own sense gratification. That is not a higher taste. So Sri Lakshmi very nicely explained Higher taste means engaging our senses for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Yeah. And once you do that, see anything, any other thing you do,
Yes,
that doesn't really appeal to you. It no longer appeals to you. Yeah. Now, once you start singing wonderful kirtans, don't feel like singing any of the movie songs. Once you start doing wonderful dance for Krishna, you don't feel like doing any other mundane dance. Correct, Sreelakshmi? Am I right? Do you feel so?
Yes, Mataji.
Very good. In fact, all the children sitting here have experienced that higher taste. That is why they're all here today, teaching us Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, so that's very nice. So we have wonderful speakers who we will be seeing in the coming weeks. So it's all a wonderful journey they are going to take us through, and I wish them all the very best to them, and my sincere blessings to each one of you. Yeah. So anybody has any other question to ask, or anybody would like to say something? I seek all of your blessings for these wonderful children. I hope you all will, you should be very, very magnanimous in give your blessings. Don't be conjuice. Don't hold on. Yeah? Yes, Yuvan, you want to say something, Yuvan?
Hare Krishna Mataji, pranams. Myself and even both are sitting and watching the class, Mataji, the entire
Yes,
class.
yes.
Haribol. Shri Lakshmi made a very wonderful class. It was such a vast chapter, and you had a very quick review, a very nicely presented. A lot many things we learned, and very well presented, beta. Because it's a very big challenge to present. I realized when Sachimaji took this class, it took so many months for us to understand each and every verse, and you really understood the subject matter, and the flow was very nice, and it was easily connecting through words by verse, through the sections. Very well done, Vitam. I really liked it, and all the best, all the best. My best wishes to all the children who are presenting this entire course. Hari Pranams.
Mataji.
Thank you, Keshri Mata. Thank you. Anybody else would like to say something? Gurushi Mata, you'd like to give some blessings for the children?
बहुत अच्छा कर रहे हैं, बहुत अच्छे से समझा रहे हैं। सेकंड चैप्टर मुझे लगा कि श्री लक्ष्मी कैसे करेगी। एक्चुअली मैं भगवान से प्रेयर कर रही थी कि श्री लक्ष्मी के लिए बहुत आसान करना, और भगवान की बहुत कृपा है तुम पर बेटा कि इतने अच्छे से समझाया। बहुत अच्छा लगा देखकर। और सच में ये चैप्टर हम जितनी भी बार पढ़े ना, थोड़ा बहुत तो मुझ जैसे कि मतलब मुझे इतना नहीं पता, पर फिर भी रहता है कि बुद्धि योग और ज्ञान योग और ये सब जो हायर टेस्ट एनालॉजीज, तो तुमने छोटे 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 विषयों के क्लिप बनाए, बहुत अच्छा अच्छे से बताया है आपने। भगवान की कृपा और गुरु की कृपा, सची माता जी की कृपा आप पर सदा बनी रहे। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Gurushi Mata, for your blessings. Yes, Arjun, go ahead, better. Arjun, you've raised your hand. Arjun, you want to ask something? Okay, no problem. I think, I don't know, maybe it's some problem, I don't know. Okay, so if we don't have any further questions and nothing to ask, I think we can end the session here. And it was very well presented. Thanks once again, Sri Lakshmi, and thanks to your parents also, who have guided you very nicely, and to all your teammates that you were all together trying to help one another, encouraging one another, and helping one another. I saw so many mails were going back and forth between all of you, and very nicely trying to help one another. This is the one thing, best thing that is the best thing to happen. Yeah, I'm so very happy for all of you, and may Krishna bless all of you. And we are eager to hear the next speaker who will be taking us through the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita. which is tomorrow. So I request all of you once again to please join the link. It will be at 4 o'clock, and same link, no change in timing. And I request you to please inform all others also to please join and take advantage of these wonderful sessions, because it is giving us an overview in a very, in hardly 1.5 to 2 hours period. It is taking us through the entire chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is going to be very, very helpful and useful. So I request all of you to please spread this word also to your other friends and colleagues and well-wishers to join this session and not to miss this session. The children are doing for us, and most importantly, this is a very, very auspicious month of Chaturmas. So I request all of you to please take advantage of hearing the Krishna Katha. So I request all of you. So please spread this word of mouth and encourage one another, others to please be a part of these wonderful sessions. Yeah. So with this, I will end the session here. Sreelakshmi, you want to say anything else better? Anything else better? We are not able to hear you.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, now I will. Nothing? Okay, okay. Yeah. So with this, I will end the session for today. And may Krishna bless all of you. Okay. Bye. Take care. Have a great day. Okay. Eagerly waiting for tomorrow. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Okay. So can you do the Vancha Kalpatarupyasya better? Do the Vaishnu Pranam mantra?
Yes, Mataji. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
Thank you, Beta. Thank you. Thanks a lot. So with the kind permission, I will end the session here today. Okay. Take care. Bye.